Europe, land of baguettes, tiny cars, and increasingly right-wing politics. Recent elections for the European Parliament, basically Congress, but for the whole continent, showed a clear swing to the right. This isn't just your dad complaining about cyclists. This is serious stuff. Imagine a political spectrum. On the left, you've got folks who want to hug trees and redistribute wealth. On the right, you've got folks who think redistributing wealth means keeping more of their own money. And in the middle, you've got, more middle-aged white guys, but with slightly different opinions on tax rates. The recent elections were like someone tilted that spectrum, and suddenly everyone's sliding rightward. This isn't just about economics though. Issues like immigration, climate change, and the EU's overall direction are pushing voters away from the traditional center. This isn't some abstract political science lecture though. This shift to the right has real consequences for how Europe deals with everything from climate change to, actual change of any kind. Buckle up, buttercup, because things are about to get interesting. Now, before we all start panicking about jackbooted thugs goose-stepping through the streets of Paris, let's be clear. The rightward shift isn't uniform. Some countries went full tilt right, while others just dipped their toes in the conservative pool. Think of it like this. You've got your hardcore far-right parties, the ones who make Marine Le Pen look like a moderate. They did well in places like Italy and Hungary, where fear of immigration and a healthy dose of nationalism got people fired up. Then you've got your more mainstream center-right parties. Think of them as they were not racist, but crowd. They cleaned up in countries like Germany and Spain, where voters were maybe a little less enthusiastic about the far right's more colorful ideas. So it's not a simple case of Europe is now run by fascists. It's more like Europe is now run by a messy coalition of people with wildly different ideas about what right-wing even means, which honestly might be even more terrifying. This is where things get really interesting, and by interesting we mean potentially disastrous. Remember those center-right parties, the ones who are totally not racist, but, they're now in a bit of a bind. On the one hand, they need the far right's votes to get anything done in Parliament. It's like needing your weird uncle who collects porcelain kittens to co-sign on a loan. You might not like it, but you need his signature. On the other hand, actually working with the far right means normalizing their ideas. It's like inviting your weird uncle to Thanksgiving dinner. Suddenly, his rants about how Elvis is still alive seem a little less crazy when you're passing him the gravy boat. So the big question is, how far is the center right willing to go? Will they compromise on their principles to stay in power? Or will they draw a line in the sand, even if it means political gridlock? The answer, my friends, is blowing in the wind, along with the faint scent of impending doom. Section 4, the price of compromise. Okay, so the right is on the rise, but what does that actually mean for regular Europeans? Well, depending on your views, it's either the end of the world as we know it, or a much needed course correction. For everyone else, it's probably somewhere in between. let's start with immigration. The far right loves to blame immigrants for everything from unemployment to bad weather. And sadly, the center right isn't exactly known for their welcoming embrace of newcomers either. So expect tougher border controls, stricter asylum laws, and a whole lot of finger pointing. Whether this actually solves anything is debatable, but it'll definitely make things harder for anyone trying to build a new life in Europe. Then there's climate change. The far right's stance on climate change can be summed up as drill, baby, drill, while the center right is more like drill, baby, drill, but maybe invest in some solar panels too, just in case. In other words, don't expect any bold action on climate change anytime soon. The Paris Agreement, more like the Paris Suggestion, am I right? Section 5, an uncertain future. So, there you have it. Europe is shifting rightward, and nobody knows quite what that means. It's like watching a slow motion train wreck. You know it's going to be bad, but you can't tear your eyes away. The big question is whether this rightward shift is a blip on the radar or a sign of things to come. Will the far right continue to gain ground, or will the center right eventually grow a spine and stand up to them? The answer, my friends, is blowing in the wind, along with the faint scent of impending doom and, oddly enough, hope. Because even in these uncertain times, one thing is certain: Europeans love to argue about politics, and that, at least, is something we can all agree on.